Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce. Come on in. Come on in. We're going to have some fun today. So, last night was Halloween. Here is the best pumpkin use I have ever seen. That rhymes. All right, so now it's November. And departing with October was daylight saving time. So now, all of us join Hawaii and part of Indiana and all of Arizona. We're all together now on the same page, which is good. During the most dangerous time of our energy insufficiency, we took the long-standing daylight saving time and lengthened it, extending it into the calendar. But really, if it's not getting light until 7:30 in the morning here, isn't that a little past common sense? And that's here, Chattanooga, well to the west of me. They're still in the Eastern time zone. So, it's got to be getting light later there. Ending it a few weeks sooner and beginning it a few weeks later might cost us a bit of energy. I am in favor of energy efficiency, but when school kids have to wait for their school buses outside in the dark, isn't that overreach? And I've got no kids. I've got no skin in the game. Except I do wish they'd pick a more convenient time to install it. 9 in the morning, 9:30 at night, 8 in the morning, noon, but no. Instead, I've got to get up at 2 in the morning and go change the damn clocks. All right, so did you watch the debate this week? I've said before, and I stand by it, I think the double debate format is a terrible idea. I do understand that 16 or now 14 candidates at once is too many. But so long as it's a huge field, instead of using this polling data, which again gives us the same 4 guys on the undercard, I'd split the field in half and draw the names out of a hat. That way, over a number of debates, we'd have a completely different dynamic. We'd see how they answer questions they might not otherwise be asked, because the questioners, the follow-up is often caused by someone mentioning your name, and nobody in the undercard is going to mention Rand Paul, so he won't have to answer a good point one of them may have made. Over time, it'd be like a bag of marbles. It would roll around. You'd get a different dynamic. In the last debates, the medical marijuana issue never came up on the undercard, but it made really lively debate in the full field. Of the undercard performers, I really liked most of what New York Governor George Pataki had to say. He was clear. He was articulate. In his Andy Griffith's words, he was dry as dust, as the preacher was in Mayberry. He just doesn't light anyone up, and that's a shame. If they do not change it and adopt the even split, I think the only one with a chance to move up from the undercard would be Senator Lindsey Graham. He was funny. He had some great lines. He delivered them with the word I think is aplomb. I respect him, most especially because of this. Following the first election of Barack Obama in 2008, even though it was his best friend in the Senate, Senator John McCain, whom Obama bested, Senator Graham was not bellicose. I recall, too, that the Democrats had won not only the White House, but the House of Representatives and the Senate. So the day after, maybe the second day after the election, but soon after the election, he was interviewed on television. He said, well, the people have spoken. Elections have consequences. We'll work together. And I admit I paraphrased that from memory because I could not find a clip or the quote directly. I remember strongly because I was so impressed by it. Now, what's ironic is then he took heat from his own party for being pragmatic. His own party attacked him for that, which doesn't strike me as being patriotic. Good for America, right? All right, from the main event, the moderators were not as bad as everybody not affiliated with CNBC made them out, but they clearly were the worst we have had so far, and the rules were jello-y, and they explained that at the discretion of the moderator. And some of the questions were absolutely asinine. But overall, compared to what happened in August and September, I was struck by how much better behaved all of the candidates were. There wasn't much shouting, especially compared to the first one. Yes, they were asked some very stupid questions, but they were asked some very good ones too, and that seemed to upset some people on the right. You know, if a candidate is uncomfortable because they get asked questions about statements they had previously made, that's what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to follow up and ask the hard question. Fantasy football, though, does not belong there. So I did say they were better behaved, and they were most of the time, but there was this one time when everybody on the stage was determined to speak at the same time.
Answer that question. I'm happy to answer the question. I'm happy to answer the question, but let me tell you how the question is. Let me tell you how that. Let me tell you how that.
Senator Paul, I've got a question for you.
So you don't actually want to hear the answer, John?
Senator Paul,
you don't want to hear the answer. You just want to answer the insult.
You used your time on something else.
You know, through the course of the debate, I heard something I liked or agreed with from almost all of them. Yes, even Donald Trump. He spoke probably one of the two greatest truths of the night, and I was only, I was a bit surprised nobody challenged him on it. He called our politics corrupt and called the super PACs a scam and blamed the Supreme Court decision on Citizens United for allowing super PACs and unlimited spending. And I was surprised no one challenged him because the others all need that stuff, or they will as soon as it's advertising season. They'll need that big money from super PACs. I wonder if they didn't challenge because in their heart of hearts, they know it's true. I liked Ted Cruz's tax plan. I really did. I liked it when, after Jeb Bush was asked about fantasy football, Chris Christie jumps in, what the hell are we talking about fantasy football for? I liked the fact that Ohio Governor John Kasich, talking about what I still believe is the GOP's appropriate enough elephant in the room, namely the ones leading the polls, have no qualifications vis-a-vis having held effective elective office. And while a movie like Dave, it's a great movie and it gives you a good feeling, it's a fun story, but in real life you can't walk in off the street and learn the job as would an intern or a rookie quarterback in the NFL. Rookie quarterbacks, even those who were stars in college, need years to develop their understanding of the pro game's nuance. They can all throw the ball, but Hall of Famers, John Elway, Terry Bradshaw, future Hall of Famer Peyton Manning, they all took years to learn it. And the presidency is a hell of a lot more complex than playing quarterback. Even former governors with their political and executive experience come in, they aren't up to speed in the beginning. John Kennedy was one of the most foreign policy ready presidents going in than almost any other president in the 20th century, maybe excepting Dwight Eisenhower and the first President Bush. Even so, at the first meeting between Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev in Vienna, Khrushchev wiped the floor with him. So I think John Kasich was right, and I don't know who the nominee is going to ultimately be, but I stand by my prediction that it's not going to be Donald Trump. I do have a new prediction. I believe the vice presidential nominee will be either Ohio's John Kasich or Carly Fiorina. Here's why. John Kasich is pretty popular in Ohio, and that is an honest-to-gosh swing state. It has been since forever, I think. And every 4 years we are reminded that no Republican has ever won the presidency without Ohio. Winning Ohio doesn't guarantee a Republican victory, but losing it does seem to guarantee defeat. So a popular Republican governor in a must-win state makes sense. But also, women voters in every election tend to vote Democratic. If Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee, she'll not only get them, she'll likely pick up a big majority of independent women voters. I'm sure whoever the nominee is would like to blunt that, so choosing a woman might be a good idea. But I think my gut tells me it may be Carly Fiorina because she's, top of mind awareness right now, but she's never held elective office. And because the Veep is a heartbeat away from the presidency, I'd much rather the nominee select from any number of qualified Republican women who have served as governor or senator and have shown intellectual curiosity and some smarts. Christy Todd Whitman, Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, isn't it? She's a senator from Alaska. Governor Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire. That's what I do. But just like daylight saving time, they're not asking me. I liked very much what Rand Paul had to say about Social Security. He was honest. The only way to save it will be to raise the retirement age for some, maybe 20, 30 years, 10, 20 years down the line. He was not the only one to say that. But his explanation of why it's in trouble was pithy, but it wasn't merely pithy. Governor Christie said it was because the government steals the money. Rand Paul says he tells younger people to blame their grandparents who had too many children. The baby boomers. The baby boomers, retiring now, didn't have as many children, so now there are fewer workers, more retirees. It's that simple. But then he went and disappointed me. As a gift to Paul Ryan, the new Speaker of the House, just retired former Speaker John Boehner, in one of his last acts, gets together a 2-year budget. He and Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell meet at the White House. They all get together. They find enough common ground among them. That gives new Speaker Paul Ryan some time to build consensus, to forge some bonds before the next firefight begins. But at the debate, Senator Paul said that he'd go back to the Senate and filibuster against the budget because, in his words, it was just slipped through with no negotiation. Come on. That's pandering, because when John Boehner, the Republican Speaker of the House, and Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, and the Democratic White House get together and they find common ground, by definition, that's exactly what negotiation is.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds, not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came and it stayed. For years I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
Finally, Mike Huckabee told the other biggest truth, that if we could cure the 4 big diseases, the costs for health care would be incredibly driven down. They would be a fraction of what they are today. And it's true. Diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, and cancer cost staggering amounts of money. They are the drivers of the healthcare crisis. The thing is, diabetes and heart disease are in large part, mostly, caused by obesity. And as I point out in my book, obesity comes from eating the wrong things, not from eating too much. It's true. But big food lobbies politicians, so we don't get their crap regulated away. You probably heard each of the Republican candidates inveigh against government regulations. Regulations are why you can tune in on your car radio a number, and there's one radio station there, not 17. That's because of regulation. Regulations are also why trans fat, a deadly poison, really, are being made to go away. Not soon enough, but they are being made to go away. But that is a small step. Cancer is probably caused by, almost certainly caused by environmental contaminants, pesticides and herbicides, and we don't know yet about GMOs. But it's that Republican congressman jerk, Mike Pompeo, whose DARK Act has passed in the House. He's a Republican. It would disallow any state, county, city, or town from demanding stronger labeling on our food. Alzheimer's might very well be on the rise for exactly the same reason. Contaminants in our food and water, and soil. Oh, and although that convicted huckster Kevin Trudeau made the same claim that Big Pharma doesn't try to cure disease, that instead it tries to control disease and sell drugs, well, Kevin Trudeau's motives were phony. But that is what Big Pharma does. And Big Pharma spends millions lobbying politicians. So, Governor Huckabee's right. Let's cure these diseases. We could cut the incidence of these 4 diseases to a fraction of what they are, but to do that, you'd have to get some regulations in, and you'd have to get rid of the Dark Act. You'd have to, get rid of the poisons in our food. So, Governor Huckabee, talk to your Republican colleagues. Get them to change their minds. And yes, a lot of the Democratic ones, too. They'd all have to change their minds. All right, don't forget, you can write us at the Bruce Channel at yahoo.com. I just alluded to the book, and something in my book, I say I don't eat traditional pizza anymore. But I can still enjoy it if the crust is made with whole grain flour, not the processed white crap. Whole grain flour, and I can eat pizza. Now, we've all used microwave to reheat pizza, and we eat it because we love pizza. But it's never as close the next day to being as good as last night. I learned this week. There is a way. Use a stovetop and a frying pan. Put some olive oil in the pan, and once it gets hot, drop the slice right in the middle and roll it around. That is, get it in the hot oil. Then cover it to melt the cheese. Now, I have found that if I throw several drops of water in and cover it, that helps melt the cheese too, and it keeps the pizza very moist. Either way, it's a zillion% better than being nuked. So back in June, I showed you some still pictures from the set of a movie in which I played a Southern mayor. Southern mayor. All right, so the trailer is now out, and you can watch the whole trailer. Just go to YouTube and search for Heterodox HDS, and you'll find it pretty quickly. Now, the trailer is for the short film, but the short film is what's called a proof of concept, and I hope to be a part of it when it grows to full feature length. Here is a taste. I'll show you. This is where I, the mayor, am meeting with the chief of police.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. The chief is here to see you.
You were expecting him?
Sir, this case is still under active investigation. There's nothing I can do to clear it or make it go away.
Now you listen to me. You got until tomorrow to show me what you're made of, or I'll have your ass out of that office. You hear me?
All right, if you do go to YouTube and watch the whole thing, you'll quickly see that this is stuff that is ripped from the headlines. You should know, though, there is adult language in the trailer. Probably nothing you haven't heard, and maybe some have even used. But be advised, there are some Fs and some MFs. Oh, speaking of acting, this week, Tuesday, I have an interesting role. I'll be playing a grandfatherly type puttering around in the garden, and I have a heart attack. Now, I'm going to do this the best I can, but I think that scenario that I described, a grandfather in the garden having a heart attack, is pretty well owned by somebody else.
I love you.
By the way, I don't think many people know this. It was very well done. The actor falling down was a stunt double. Marlon Brando set up the scene, cutting the oranges and putting it under his lip, but the chase and the fall was a stunt double. I don't think they're going to get me a stunt double. I have told you I really like acting in film, and I'd like to think that I may get good at it. I'm obviously the least objective person to judge that. That being said, my best friends, those who know me the best, based on what I'm about to tell you, might affirm that I must be a pretty good actor. They would say that because, although I don't yet know when we're shooting it, last weekend I auditioned for and won the role of A priest? All right, this is a quick hitter. You may find this useful, although it would be better if you never found it useful. But I only learned this week. If you've ever been stopped, or if you are stopped by a police officer, they will ask you, "Do you know why I stopped you, ma'am?" Or "Do you know why I stopped you, sir?" They are trained to ask that way. Now, they may have pulled you over to do you a favor, advise you that one of your taillights is out. But they ask you in that way on the slim chance that you'll say something like, "Oh, yeah, I passed in the double yellow line," or "You smelled the pot?" Whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you've done, the police officer may not have known that. But if you say it, you have nevertheless forfeited your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Slam dunk forfeited. So if you're asked, "Do you know why I stopped you?" the answer should be no. I've been stopped, never for anything of great consequence, and I have been asked that. But I only recently learned why they ask in that way. And finally this, October is gone and your leaves are gone, or mostly gone, or depending where you are, they're about to peak. But a friend posted this, and it is gorgeous. And sharing a bit of gorgeous strikes me as something we ought do when possible. So enjoy. And enjoy your upcoming week, which I hope is the best one you've ever had.